It's Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, your number one tennis betting podcast, looking ahead to the second round men's singles of the French Open. I'm Nigel Seeley, I'm your host, and delighted to say joining me as per usual for these shows and podcasts is our senior 80-bit tour handicapper, it's Sean Calvert. Sean, good morning to you. Not much tennis played so far this morning on Wednesday. Rain that we feared has played havoc on the outside courts today and doesn't look too good over the next couple of days, does it, mate?
No, not really. We talked about this yesterday, didn't we? You're never sure, though, are you, with the weather forecast? They're not accurate, but because they did start, didn't they? Okay, I was kind of surprised that they started, and then bearing in mind what we saw yesterday, they started, and then since they've been off, I've got it on my screen here. I've just got a very wet. I'm not sure what court that is, whichever court her cash is on my screen, saying not before 15:30. So that's local time. So that's a good 4-hour delay. And I think that's perhaps optimistic as well, isn't it? Looking at the weather forecast. But, yeah, it's a bit of a soggy one, as we'd feared.
Very frustrating for bettors, the rain delays. You know, it's also frustrating for the players as well. But, you know, you think, oh, no.
And it is because, you know, if you're in a situation where your guy's about to serve for a set or a match and it's tight, you know, and he's been the better player and, you know, deserves to win and he gets called off. You know, I've said before, rain delays or any significant delay can change matches. You know, the other player's got chance to maybe reassess, talk to his coach, figure out what he's done wrong or what he needs to do a bit better, a bit more of, or whatever. And it's natural if you're sitting on a lead and you've got to wait 2, 3, 4 hours to come back. It's natural that you're going to be nervous as a kitten coming back, isn't it? Because now you've got something to lose. So, you know, rain delays, they do change matches, and it can be very frustrating for bettors, as you just said, yeah.
If you watched the show yesterday, I know a number of you did, and our views have been absolutely sensational for the French Open. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for subscribing to the channel as well. The Betting Weekly Studios on YouTube, growing at a huge amount over the French Open in the last few days. So thank you very much for that. But if you did watch the show yesterday, we'd have realised that Sean's only official pick on the day was in the Hercash match between Nakajima. Nakajima is plus 4.5. Now, I'm not quite sure when this drops if we'll come back, but just you talk about their players coming back at vital stages. Hercash has got to come back now and serve to stay in set number one. So that's quite a good rain delay for us with the 4.5, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, it's pot luck. Sometimes you get them and they really go against you. Sometimes it works for you. You know, given how well Hercash serves, he should be okay. But Nakashima should have broken earlier in that set. He had love 40 on the Hercash serve, and he was. That's the one thing about Nakashima. His breakpoint converted percentage is poor. And you can see why, because he choked for me, on all three of them. Had chances, was tentative with them. And that's why he's not breaking enough as he should do, because his all-round players is at least a match for Hercash. If he can just take, should I say, one or two of those breakpoint chances, he should be in good shape. But, yeah, difficult situation for Hercash coming back. But we know he generally does well under pressure on serve. With a weapon like that, you know, who wouldn't?
Yeah, all to play for in that match. Hopefully we can get over the line with the 4.5. It's a good start for us going with serving set number one as we expected before the rain delay. And the rain delay is going to play havoc over the next 2 or 3 days as we predicted. And as the weather forecast is predicting for today and tomorrow and going into the latter part of this week. So that's why we're here today. We were going to come back a little bit later. We thought we're going to come on today, give you our thoughts on the top half of the draw second round matches. Obviously yesterday we spoke about the bottom half of the draw in round two. We're going to look at the top half today and because if we come back in later in the week, we could have a backlog of these matches that we've already spoken about. So it's a good, perfect time to come back and have a look at these second round matches. And this is in the top half of the draw. Now, remember, the schedule is in and out. 5 a.m. Eastern time, the order of play will start. We're not quite sure whether this will be played tomorrow, on Thursday, or they may go into Friday, depending on the weather forecast and the weather conditions over in Paris. So these are the second round matches in the top half of the draw. And the first match we are going to discuss is a match between two players very, very closely matched in the rankings. Mariano Navone is number 31 in the current world rankings, the Argentinian, and he's up against Tomas Machac, who is ranked 34. I watched Machac play last week against Mickelson, and he won it very easily, and he went on and beat Novak Djokovic in probably the biggest win of his year. Quite hard for him to back that up, but he went to play Casper Ruud, got beat 2-0, which is not a surprise because obviously the high of beating the world number one. But he did play very well in round number one here to beat Borges in straight sets. And if you look at the betting in this match here, It's very, very, despite the rankings, there is an overwhelming favourite, and that is Tomas Machac, who is minus 167. Navone is obviously the higher ranked player, the seeded opponent here. He's plus 133. The spread here is quite high. It's 3.5, minus 121 for Navone, receiving 3.5 start. Machac giving up the 3.5 is minus 106. The total is 37.5 with over minus 107 and under minus 120. The two have never met before. The clay court season results, Navone is very heavy, 25 wins to 10 losses. Machac is 7 wins to 3 losses. Machac did have a deep run last week, Sean, and I suppose a lot of the market makers will be looking at that win against Novak Djokovic, the Bet Rivers tennis compilers. But that was an out of sorts Djokovic who really didn't want to be there. And has the market probably gone a little bit overboard on his price here, given that win over the world number one?
Yeah, I think you've summed it up in a nutshell there, that it has gone overboard on him, really. I mean, he's too short here, Machac, for me, in what could be a real physical battle in much slower conditions than he faced in Geneva. I know it was a little bit rainy in Geneva, but it was still quick. And suddenly if you used to do these odds compiling, you have ratings on players, don't you? Suddenly his rating's gone up, hasn't he, because he's beaten Djokovic. Suddenly the layers are thinking, I know it's a bit more automatic these days, but they're thinking, he's beaten Djokovic. He didn't really have much of a record on clay, really, prior to that Geneva. Now they're thinking he's beat Djokovic, he's got to the final, he's a man to be feared on clay. But if we look at the 2024 clay stats at main level, they're almost identical. They are identical. Navone 103, Machac 103 in terms of service points won and return points won totals. And Navone with a slight lead, 107 to 106 in terms of hold and break totals. But it's a fascinating matchup, really, of the power of Machac against the counterpuncher of Navone. You might argue Machac might be the one be able to hit the ball through the court, these slow courts, the better. But you can't discount Navone because he's beaten a lot of powerful players on clay before, the likes of Cerundolo, Saboth, Wild. He's also beaten Massetti, Cam Norrie, Darderi, Wawrinka all this season on clay. Some of them have got some serious power. It's a question of how many balls Navone is going to get back. If he's getting too many from Mahac's point of view, balls back in this matchup, you feel like Mahac's going to make some mistakes. He wasn't great, Machac, against Borges. He was down a break in both of the opening 2 sets to Borges. But Borges didn't play well. He was moaning about the slow conditions and the balls and all the rest of it. But ultimately, Borges had great chances in the first set and the second set and didn't convert them. So a straight sets win for Machac, you might say, it flatters him a little bit. If Borges had been better when he had a lead, we might have been looking at a very different story here. It feels to me like Mahac's got to play a very clean match to justify a price of, minus 167 or thereabouts? 1.6 in decimal? Nah, not for me. I feel like you will probably get a better price than that in play if you want to back the Czech player here. My lean here will be over 37.5 games. I feel like this is going to be a long one, a real clash of styles between the big hitter and the counter-puncher. So I think that was minus 103 over 37.5 games when I looked earlier at Bet Rivers. That would be where I'm going on this one.
It's moved slightly, minus 107, still around about the same kind of price, but minus 107 is now the overs. There's been a little bit of a market move for the over 37.5. So that would be Sean's lean here. Just a couple of things to follow up with your conversation there, Sean. I mean, Tomas Machac has shown absolutely nothing on clay until last week in Geneva. I mean, absolutely nothing. If you
and
look
it's quicker there, yeah.
Yeah, and he got beat by, he got thrashed in Madrid by Ben Shelton. Lost a set 6-love there. It's terrible. And then his season form coming in, that it's been really turned on its head in that Geneva performance. The other thing you mentioned there, I actually saw Machac play as well he played an American on one of the outside courts in Geneva, and the American was all over him. I can't remember the guy's name. Moreno de Alboran.
Oh, Moreno de Alboran, yeah.
And he's about 130 in the world, and he took the first set and was the much better player in set number 2.
He's got some good power as well, Moreno de Alboran. He can hit a ball, that's for sure.
But I think the market's just looked at that, not Djokovic winner, thinks that he's beat Djokovic and he has to win this. I think it's a wrong price. On my ratings, funny you should say that, I've got them both rated exactly the same on my ratings, which I give them a rating of 7. Which
is exactly what the service points won and return points won totals will tell you, 103, 103. So it's a bit short on Machac. The only reason I'm not pressing the button on Navone is I just feel like the slow conditions, it might just be Machac that's just got that extra power. Well, he definitely has the extra power. it might just tip the balance in his favour. But I wouldn't be pricing it like this. It should be pretty much a pick 'em, maybe Machac's slight favourite. But yeah, too short for me.
I think if anybody's new to this podcast, welcome along, or the show, welcome along to all the content we're doing here. And there's a little bit of Sean and I have known each other for many years, and Sean has obviously been a better from tennis and a very established tennis journalist. My trade was actually as an odds compiler on tennis, and I think the few things I would say to anybody betting on tennis as an odds compiler, my advice was obviously we were trained to do this rating system, which meant that if you had a rating of 7. And the tournament favourite at 100, you would bet that guy at 1.07 to beat the 100. If you rated 10, it'd be 1.10, 1.15, and so on and so forth. But one thing I would say is that when you come up with a market price, you automatically then factor in where you think the public will go. So I know you said that it's all sort of done now. By the programs and the computers that generate the price, but there was a certain sense that once you put a price up, you knew whatever price you put up, the public would play that bet. So if this was me marking this price, if I went -110, -110 each, I would know that the market would probably go for Machac because of that Djokovic win and move him to -130. So that's built into the price where you think that the public will go. And obviously here I think that Bet Rivers are expecting a public play on Machac at -167 at the line, and paid a little bit of disrespect for Navone at +133. So a small lean for me for Navone, a small lean for Sean, and over 37.5. So if Navone wins a long match here, we're both cashing tickets.
Which he might do, because the other thing I haven't mentioned, sorry to just put in there, is that Machac is somewhat unproven. No, so is Navone incidentally, but he's a young player. Very much unproven for me in terms of fitness and stamina. He has had a lot of injury problems over the years, Machac. So this does go to sort of a very long 4 or 5. I'm not sure I'd be on him in a deciding set against Navone.
If it does go all the way to a 5th set, remember there's a huge amount of in-play opportunities, and Bet Rivers are doing a in-play special at the French Open. It's the French Open in-play bet insurance. Each day of the French Open at Each day of the French Open at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If your first French Open in-play wager loses, you will get a bonus back equal to 50% of your bet. Good on your first in-play bet each day of Roland-Garros. Minimum odds of -150 or longer. Good for up to $25 back in bonus wages. Head across to the Bet Rivers app for more details. Okay, the next match we are going to speak about has already been a subject of a little bit of a market move. It's Darderi up against Griekspoor. We went with Darderi last week in Lyon. He reached the semi-finals, got beat by Etcheverry. He come through very easily in the first round against Hijikata. Tallon Griekspoor, we all know he's a big server. Is clay's surface? I'm not quite sure it is, but Tallon Griekspoor is the seeded player here, and he is the underdog at +114. Darderi is now -141. He was a lot bit bigger than that earlier in the day. The spread is 2.5, and the total here is very high for a clay court game. No surprise given Tallon Griekspoor's serving attributes. It's 39.5. Over is -115 and under is -109. Again, there's no real data to go on because these two have never played each other before. But Griekspoor's clay court season, he got to the quarterfinals again in Geneva. Djokovic beat him, but in a fast Geneva. But at Rome, he was beaten his first match against Passaro. He got beat by Vucevic in Bucharest, and he made the round of 16 again in quicker conditions in Madrid. So on the quick stuff, he's got a chance. On the slower clay, he's clearly the second best. Darderi was a heavy bet this morning, and do you agree with that market move, Sean?
Yeah, I was gonna put him up as a bet today. He started at about even money, I think, when this was priced up sort of last night. He was still slightly odds on this morning, but by the time I'd written it and by the time we're now talking, he's come right in, hasn't he? And I know why that is the case. It's because
you're on, because you got on before you come on.
I'm not on. That's the annoying thing. I'm not. I haven't. That price has got nothing to do with me or anybody else really. I think it's just about Tallon Griekspoor. He's injured. He wore a sleeve on his right arm in his first round match, which was a struggle against Mackenzie McDonald, who himself has been injured all season and has been pretty poor in his comeback so far. He's not a clay man anyway, McDonald. I'll tell you what he said. He said, it's a nerve block. I'm doing a lot better than a few days ago, but I'm playing with painkillers and I haven't been able to train much. On Saturday and Sunday, I was in a lot of pain and I couldn't sleep. Then I doubted whether I could play. That's against McDonald. But it has gotten better and better. Hopefully the reaction tomorrow is not too bad so that I can go without it on Thursday. I presume he means, when he says go without it, I assume he means the painkillers and or the sleeve. But that's why the prices come in, because this information has obviously filtered its way through. People are betting it, or the line's moved in anticipation of that, or whatever. You know more about that than me. In any case, even forgetting about the injury, I'm not convinced, as you aren't, that slow clay is good for Griekspoor. He's a much better player for me on grass or quick hard. If we look at the last 12 months on clay at main level, Darderi 71% win rate compared to 50% for Griekspoor. Service points won and return points won total for Darderi 104 compared to 99 for Griekspoor, and a service hold and break total of 107 for Darderi, just 96 for Griekspoor. And Griekspoor only breaks serve 15% of the time on clay. So statistically, Darderi's well ahead. Fitness-wise, you would assume he's got a substantial advantage as well. Obviously, Griekspoor's right-handed. He's got that right arm issue, which he's been quite clear and candid about. So that was why I was going to take Darderi at about minus 116 when I wrote this down. But now he's, minus
141 and moving in even further south as we speak.
Yeah, has the handicap come up yet? Because that wasn't up earlier.
It's 2.5. Darderi's given up 2.5, even money.
That's probably where I'd go then. I mean, it's going to have to be a lean now. It was going to be a bet on the money line, but now that money line has shifted so much in favour of Darderi, I can't really recommend that at that price. I would still suggest, if you are betting in this match, minus 2.5 is probably decent, because as I said, Griekspoor only breaks 15% of the time on clay, so he's got quite a bit to find on return of serve.
Yep, so Darderi, we may have missed the boat there on the minus 141 for Darderi, but his opponent Griekspoor is carrying an injury, got an injury concern, and probably the odds there won't really suggest much of a play there for us. But Darderi, if you are the lean is minus 2.5 at even money. We have 4 matches to talk about, and we're moving on to a next one, which is quite a fascinating match, actually. I'm quite interested in your thoughts on this match, because it's a game between Casper Ruud, who was playing a lot of tennis. He won the 250 in Geneva before this tournament. Remember, that tournament was delayed, so he comes straight across, played here in Paris more or less the next day. He played Davidovich Fokina, who is a player that, I think he's got all the talent in the world when he's holding a racket, but between his ears, he doesn't have much talent at all. But
yeah,
these two
couldn't argue with that.
Yeah, these two are no strangers to each other, and they've played 4 times previously, and it's 2 wins apiece. And when they met in the French Open in 2021, Davidovich Fokina actually beat Casper Ruud, despite Casper Ruud taking a set 6-love off him. So he knows he can beat him, Davidovich Fokina. He's had a terrible year so far, but there's prices and there's prices, and I just feel that this Davidovich Fokina price could be a little bit big. I don't think it's going to be nowhere near as one-sided as these odds suggest. Casper Ruud here is minus 530. You know what to expect from him. He's very, very steady. The Norwegian, the 2-time runner-up here, 3-time Grand Slam runner-up. He's never won a great major, but he's been the nearly man on 3 occasions. He's heavy favourite, minus 530. Davidovich Fokina is plus 390. All the talent in the world, as I said. The spread here is 6.5. Now, that does seem high, but there is this capability with the Spaniard where he can completely go crazy and lose a set 6-love like he did in that match last time they met. Minus 134, Casper Ruud giving up 6.5, and that seems low. But Davidovich Fokina receiving 6.5 is plus 105, and the total here again looks quite relatively low, 34.5. If you look at their previous meetings, they've all been fairly close. Miami was the last time Ruud met, and Ruud won it quite easy, 6-3, 6-4. But prior to that, Toronto, Davidovich Fokina won 7-6, 4-6, 7-6. The French Open, 7-6, 2-6, 7-6, love 6, 7-5. And then they met the next gen in the 2019 finals, and that went all the way to 5 sets. Obviously, it was a shorter format, and the games weren't so long. But these two like to play a bit of a battle, and I think these total lines and these spread lines are a little bit disrespectful for Davidovich Fokina.
Yeah, I mean, on his best form, Davidovich has got a pretty good chance of making this at least a long and tough day for Casper Ruud. As you said, Davidovich beat Ruud here as a plus 208 chance. He was priced up at that day. Now he's, plus 390? The reason for that is he's had a poor year, well, certainly a poor season in 2024, Davidovich Fokina, and his stats are down. They're not massively down, but they're down, as you would expect on previous years. But we know he's capable of a lot better than what he's shown in the last 12 months. Certainly this season, he's not been great. His stats are still okay, but they're not as good as they were, and that's because his form has kind of dissolved over the last sort of 6 months or so. But as you say, he will have a lot more, you would think, in his legs at this point in the season than Casper Ruud, who's played a lot of tennis this clay swing. Davidovich hasn't been winning. He should have an awful lot more in the tank than Casper Ruud. Slow conditions shouldn't be a problem for Davidovich, Fokina, but as ever, it just depends how he is mentally on the day. You know, he can implode so badly. He'll be doing well, and then he'll just decide to throw an underarm serve in out of nowhere, and things will all go. I think he did that against Ruud in that match at the French Open when he lost one of the sets 6-love. Didn't he have match points against somebody and try an underarm serve?
I think it was Rublev.
Was that Rublev?
I think it was in Dubai, in the tournament in Dubai. I remember we bet.
He's done that a few times.
I know
he's
we
done
bet
it on clay as well.
I was there the following day, and we bet Davidovich Fokina on the handicap, and he had a match point and completely blew it. I'm sure it was Rublev, and Rublev went on to win the tournament, or Holger. It was that tournament
he's also
that Rublev
done it on
won.
clay against somebody. I can't remember who it was. I feel like he's done that against Ruud before, but the point is that he can play some beautiful tennis, Davidovich Fokina. You might argue that he's perhaps the more talented of these two. It's just that Ruud has got a much more solid mentality. He's more disciplined, and that's why he's achieved better results. Because there's no doubt that Davidovich Fokina should have won an ATP Tour level tournament by now. He should have been contending in Masters 1000s, and he has, of course, got to the Monte Carlo final, didn't he, 1 year? So we know he's got it in the locker. It's just, is he going to be able to produce it? Is this sort of funk that he's in at the minute, is this indicative of maybe a long-term decline, or is he just struggling for form, fitness, touch, wins right now, but he could bounce back at any point? I feel like he's got to be good enough for at least a set here. I mean, Casper Ruud would be delighted to walk off here 3-0. He'd sign for that in a heartbeat, no doubt. He knows how good Davidovich Fokina is. I feel like over 35.5 games, minus 103 is perhaps where you want to be looking here. I have been burned a few times by Davidovich Fokina, I have to say. It's so I'm going to be a bit circumspect on this one, but I feel like some of the lines favouring him here are surely the way to go.
Yeah, I think that 34.5 is a great play. I love the over here. I've done a little bit of Googling. You might have heard me tapping away there. But Davidovich Fokina it was Rublev, of which Davidovich Fokina, it was in Dubai in 2023. I was at the tournament. Rublev got to the final. Medvedev won the tournament. But we bet Rublev the following year to win the tournament. And he did. And the match, he lost. He won the first set 6-1, Davidovich Fokina, and then he lost the next two sets 7-6, 7-6, and failed to.
Wasn't he something like 5-0 up in the tiebreak?
Yeah, 5-0, and he missed 5 match points. It was horrendous, and I was on it. We were on it, and I remember I couldn't believe it. And then
he's done that about 3 times against Rublev. I think he's had a ridiculous lead in a tiebreak against Rublev on at least 3 occasions, and lost all of them from like 5-0, 5-1. That sort of score. I'm
getting my Rublev facts wrong here because he didn't win Dubai in 2024. Because I remember what happened in 2024. He cost me again because he smashed all his racket up and got defaulted when I was on the overs. So Rublev has done me no favours at all in Dubai. But Davidovich,
he's met yours, isn't he, Rublev?
I think I've met him a couple of times. Me and Andre, good buddies. But he wants to start a boy band up, but he's. I think I'm too old for the band now. So
I think he is as well, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he's all right. He's yeah. I've said every time I ever go to a tennis tournament, especially in the hardcourt season, I always go to scheduled and Rublev's playing. So I always
see Mariano everywhere.
Yeah,
he must recognise me by now. I've seen him about 30 times, but still no recognition. One day I'll get a slight nod or something off him, but it's not happened yet.
I doubt it very much, but anyway.
Yeah,
Davidovich Fokina, 34.5 over, minus 121. These two have been involved in some very epic battles. If he can keep his head straight, he can keep in the game, Davidovich Fokina can definitely give Ruud some struggles. Maybe over 3.5 sets as well. Head across to the Bet Rivers website. There will be about 60 different markets on this match. Currently, there's about 40 on the Rivers website, but there'll be more added as the day starts, and the day starts tomorrow, 5 a.m. Eastern time. Hopefully, we don't have too much of a backlog from this weather today. I keep overemphasising that. Check the schedule. Make sure you get your plays down nice and early. So no official plays yet, Sean. Just a few leans. Hopefully,
one coming up.
We're going to change that on the final match. So we're going to leave the best till last. Holger Rune up against Cobolli. Cobolli did us a big favour. I know we didn't have it on the show here, but we both spoke about it off air when the scheduling was out. We actually bet Cobolli at plus 160 odd yesterday. We couldn't do it at the time because the prices weren't available. But we got some money yesterday on him. And I'm interested to see whether we stick with him. He played Medjedovic yesterday and won 3-1. Holger Rune come through 3-0 against Dan Evans, but Dan Evans was quite competitive for much of that match, so it wasn't as one-sided as many expected. Holger Rune is having a very, very tough time of it at the moment this season, not showing the form of last year, but he's still a heavy favourite. He's minus 245. Cobolli is plus 190. The spread is 5.5, minus 155. Cobolli giving up, receiving 5.5, and Holger Rune plus 118, giving up the 5.5. The total is 37.5 over minus 115, under minus 109. The question is, Sean, are we sticking with Cobolli or are we going to oppose him?
I think at these odds, you got to stick with him.
Right.
Definitely. Rune's done absolutely nothing in the last 12 months, probably, certainly this season, to suggest he should be this short. I mean, Cobolli's playing some great clay court tennis at the minute. His stats for the last 12 months on clay are considerably better than Holger Rune's. Cobolli, service points won and return points won, total of 105, and a service hold and break total of 109. Now, those are some very good numbers. Perhaps just as importantly, the fact that Rune's numbers are well down on what he's done in the past and what he would look to achieve. Service points won and return points won, total of 99, and a hold and break total of 100. Now, these are very, very mediocre numbers for a top 20 player on his favourite surface as well. It's not like he's playing on something that he's not happy with. I just find it very difficult to make Rune a minus 244 or thereabouts favourite on everything that he's achieved in the last, or not achieved in the last 12 months. He lost to Baez in Rome, lost to Griekspoor in Madrid. He was absolutely thrashed by Jan Lederstruff in Munich. There's always an excuse coming from generally his mum, and sometimes him as well. He's always there's an illness problem, there's a fitness problem, or he had something bad to eat.
Is he the tennis player equivalent of Sean Calvert? Well, it's Holger Rune,
the difference is I don't moan after results. I don't say, that didn't happen because I was ill. I just generally moan about my state of health.
I just made the comparison. Holger Rune of the Sean Calvert.
I mean, my mum doesn't usually weigh in with information. Not that she knows any information, but there we are. So I think if you're backing Rune here at this price, you're just hoping that a return to Roland-Garros brings a return to his best form, because what he's produced lately, it shouldn't be good enough, really, to beat the Cobolli that we're currently seeing. He played very, very well in heavy conditions against Medjedovic yesterday. Started great. I mean, it got a bit testy in the end, didn't it? He only just got over the line. Looked like he was going to make a mess of it from 5-1 in the fourth set, but he just about got over the line. But those stats, they're so far ahead of Rune's that it immediately alerts me to the fact that there's some value about. And Cobolli plus 1.5 sets, minus 102, just shy of evens with Bet Rivers, to win. Basically, he's got to win 2 sets. I feel that's the value. I think if Rune's going to win this, he's going to have to do it the hard way.
If you're looking at the money line, the current price of Bet Rivers at plus 190 is considerably the best on the planet. That
I wouldn't put anybody off just taking the money line, yeah. What puts me off that is you don't get many underdog winners at Roland-Garros. There was hardly any yesterday. In fact, Cobolli was the only genuine underdog that won yesterday. There was a couple that were sort of slightly, maybe became underdogs that were favourites, like Kokinakis and Goffin. They were very, very tight on price, and Bublik was very tight on price as well. But every single other match yesterday, like 16 other matches, were all won by the favourites, apart from this one, Cobolli. So that's why I tend to, if I see a price like this, then I'll tend to just add the 1.5 set insurance in, because the amount of times that underdogs get beat in a fifth, it's quite often here. So, yeah, plus 1.5 sets for me. That's my official play for today.
Plus 1.5 sets, Cobolli. Minus 102 with Bet Rivers. Head across now, because I can pretty much guarantee you that price will not be there, because the money line of plus 190, if you want to take that on Cobolli, is the best price around. And as soon as that moves, every other market which is related to the Italian will move as well. So be very, very careful. Get across there early, because you want to get that price. That will definitely be a move. You followed all of Sean's picks on the show so far this year with plus 8.72 units. I'm sure we'll be adding to that over the next couple of weeks. Remember, there is that in-play bonus with Bet Rivers. Make sure it's the French Open in-play bet insurance each day of the French Open at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If your first French Open in-play wager loses, you will get a bonus equal to 50% of your bet. Good on your first in-play bet each day of Roland-Garros. Minimum odds of minus 150 or longer. Good for up to $25 back in bonus wagers. Head across to the Bet Rivers app for more further details. Head across to Betting Weekly Studios on YouTube. Give us a subscribe. Keep across all the content here. French Open is going to be crazy for the next couple of weeks. Then we have the Euro 2024 Soccer Championship. The Champions League is on Saturday between Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid. And then we have Wimbledon. And that's all over the next 8 weeks or so. So the content is going to come thick and fast. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you get an alert every time a bit of content drops. You'll be alerted, and make sure you give us a subscribe. If you've got any questions for myself or Sean, put them in the comments bottom below, and make sure you like and review this podcast, and also download the podcast, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, and also Betting Weekly WTA, our 2 tennis podcasts, which are available on your preferred podcast provider. Finally, give us a follow on our socials at Because We Win on Instagram and on Twitter. And you'll kind of see across all the content. There is a Europa Conference League tonight final, and the handicappers will be giving picks at halftime on the Instagram account. And obviously, as the tournament goes off, there'll be more exclusive content from the tennis world on our Instagram page. So make sure you follow that at Because We Win. Sean, good luck with your wagers today.
Thank you.
We will probably be back, probably Sunday now, because we don't really know what's going to happen. The rain delay looks like it's going to be over a couple of days, and then we'll just wait for the tournament to sort of reschedule. Hopefully the weather turns for the better next week, and we'll catch up again on Sunday. So enjoy the next couple of days. If there is any change to that, I will post something on our socials to let you know there's some content dropping. But really, will probably be Sunday this week, and then more content, a lot more content for the final week of the French Open over in Paris. So Sean, enjoy your day. Thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to Betting Weekly Studios. Thanks for all the new subscribers. Keep them coming, and enjoy our content and cash some tickets. Take care.